So these are new question types: short answer questions, function answers, intervals or ordered pairs, and then lists of numbers. To allow students to enter these answers in a nicer way, we also have a palette. So for example, I can type 7x, x, and I can take the cosine of 7x. I can divide that by, say, the tangent function, maybe the tangent of pi, if that's loud. So we can ask students to answer these questions in a way that's a little bit easier for them, more calculator-like, without requiring them to type by hand the cosine, all of the parentheses, the tangents, and use the appropriate syntax. Yes?
In terms of syntax, is the white space a concern?
No.
Cosine? Okay.
No, and we also parse in a multiplication sign between the 7 and the x, so that is also not an issue. Any other questions about the palette?
Is it possible for students to muck this up by trying to put in their own multiplication sign?
Yeah. Well, it's possible for them to
Max will take time.
it's possible for them to type in something that's not about a valid function name. Like they could say, they might mean the tangent of 7x, and maybe they submitted that, but that's not valid, and it's not a member of the palette, so we would count this as wrong if we were really looking for the tangent of 7x.
So is there a way to,
Yes!
is there a way to make it not wrong but not right? Like, please enter a valid function?
Yeah, so what we can do on the next page, what we can do, and this I think is particularly important with things that are fractions. Students, when they enter fractions in line, they frequently have a lot of issues with those. So here, if you type 1 over x in your little window, we can have a preview button that shows you what it looks like as a fraction with a numerator over a denominator.
Is it
And yeah.
So now change 1 over x to 1 over x plus 3 or whatever.
Right, so, oh look, I was messing with this earlier. So we can have something like this that has 1 over, it's kind of small, 1 over x plus 1 over x in the denominator, and we typeset that so that it looks like this, something that's a little bit more natural for a student to look at.
But the typesetting step should also have audits. You know, I guess things that are so badly wrong that they won't even pass the syntax checker. We don't want to count off people are wrong.
So it might be that faculty will want to end every question with, be sure to typeset your answer first to make sure it looks like what you want, or some sort of
Yeah,
instruction
we're
to the
also
student.
hoping though that we can develop a culture that they know that they're supposed to typeset their answers before they submit.
Yes, and I'm saying fair warning to faculty, it's probably a good idea to end that culture with an instruction to the students, please typeset your answers so that you'll.
Yeah. Yes.
Are you parsing pairs and asterisks, or how are you parsing them?
So this input is actually right now sent to WebMathematica, and it's not, we're not doing any parsing to it on the front end. So things like, if I were to switch the order of these things, or maybe put 1 over x plus, let's do this. I think this is the one that changes the order. So it will frequently change the order of things and put them in what it deems the correct order. And I'm not sure that what we think of that. I don't know whether we would want the preview button to be exactly what they wrote, or whether we're okay with these kinds of transformations. Thoughts? Now that I have you here and you're captain?
Well, in terms of training students, they might eventually start answering the way that the typeset does, as long as they're equivalents.
They are always equivalent. The thing that it writes is equivalent to what they wrote, but it's not exactly the same. It's not verbatim what they wrote.
For example, Mathematica loves to put things, if you write x squared plus x plus 1, it loves to change that to 1 plus x plus x squared.
Yeah, it likes to change the order of things.
It has that, that's algorithm.
If you have 1 plus x on the bottom without the parentheses, will it shift the x up?
So what it does if I do that, like this,
Yes.
So now you have 1 plus
that-
x.
Oh, that's
it
great.
says
Yeah.
is
let's do it.
1 plus x.
Okay. So it does.
Yeah, and, yes, and if we were submitting this as an algebraic free response answer, it would be counted like this.
That's actually educational in and of itself, so that's good.
So is this
That's the
acceptable?
biggest mistake with fractions.
Yes, the lack of parentheses.
So that's actually, I would probably change typeset to
Preview.
Yeah,
preview
so-
or check or.
My button image has been eaten by gremlins, I don't know where it is. But yeah, this needs to look different,
Yeah.
absolutely. no
Well, the function
argument.
is good, and we're just, we're
absolutely.
now talking about sort of the user interface.
Oh,
of
yeah, yeah.
How this looks like.
So this is, what we're talking about and showing today are pieces that still need to be put together. And there's a process that we still need to go through. But yeah, this piece needs to be put inside an actual question. There's no question here, as you can see.
How does this look in the editor?
How does what look
How
like?
how does an editor create one of these questions?
Create an algebraic free response question? So the editing process is, so for those of you that have edited before, you know that there is a tech code block and then C code that deals with the randomization, whether your numbers, function names, or anything. Those two things look almost exactly the same as they did before. The tech code still looks the same and the C code looks the same except for a couple of things. One, we're not using JavaScript, but you probably won't notice that change in your everyday coding. Two, the answers are defined in a special way. So really, everything looks almost exactly the same, except for when you get to defining your ANS 1 or 2 or whatever you're doing. I think I put my sample question.
It's loading.
It is loading. It's telling me it's loading.
You get a very large first page.
I don't think so. I think we're on a new. While it's doing that, oh, there it is.
By the way, while you're loading that, on the splash page, why do you not give the login options, login as student, login as editor, login as instructor at that point?
Why do you, which
On the splash page for Quest, which was, you go to Quest and then you get a splash page and you log in, you can then switch modes, editor, instructor view, whatever.
So instead you would rather log in, like you would rather pick your URL and then log into that?
Yeah, go to the splash page and then from there be able to log in as an editor or log in as an instructor. I'm not sure why you feel bothered to do that.
Probably no one, that's the word.
I just realized, do we want to turn the lights off? Can you see? Is everything fine?
Can we turn off half?
We held in the lights up.
Flip one of the switches.
See if you resize switch.
So this is what the editor for these looks like. This is my question preview. This is the tech code. We're still using plain tech here.
I don't go so fast, I'm slow to read.
Okay,
So the editor actually has to specify the alternatives.
so this is a function answer, and no. This is what I wrote in my actual question, and I said, this is the right answer that I coded, and these are the things that would be considered
I see,
acceptable and
okay,
equivalent.
okay.
So this was something that I wrote purely for demo purposes.
But Mathematica is supplying those.
No, I supplied
No,
them
no, I
as-
agree, but I mean, whatever the student types in, Mathematica will combine.
Mathematica will say, is this the
Okay.
same? And so,
Give him a control plus. No, it's, guess it's not gonna work.
no, I don't think so. If I highlight it and turn it dark, well, no. Okay, so the things that are different about this are that instead of your usual void answer void
Mhm.
part, we have function JS answer, open parentheses, and then these brackets enclose your randomization things. We have the declaration of our ANS1. It's still a global, but its type is now free, indicating that it is a function expression answer. Defining ANS1, it's a string. I've enclosed it in quotation marks, and I've written pretty much what you would expect a student to write.
So you're not coding that in tech?
No.
What are you coding this?
JavaScript.
Yeah.
Instead of C, it's JavaScript at the bottom.
So what happens is that this ANS1 gets sent to our parser and, well, yes, it does get sent to the parser, and then the student input gets sent to the parser, and then.
But the body of the
they're
question would be typed in text.
Absolutely still. And you can still use the typesetting functions here, yes.
So for the entire west side of Speedway that's not familiar with using text,
Yes, that would be left.
sorry. It is also the case that there's a palette which can be used to answer questions that one does not need to use this text code, isn't that correct?
So
I
when
mean,
you
we
use,
saw that preview back in May, and Shane
so,
walked us through that.
yeah, when we code this particular question type, we still need to use this editor. But we could make this functionality available in that